Creating a key driver analysis test in Sitex is easy. To get started, click on New Project or click on an existing project. You should be in a section called Build. Click on Add Item. Look under Methodologies and click on Key Driver Analysis. Once you click on Key Driver Analysis, your test should be here. You'll start with a product or service description. And as you can see, I'm testing cold brew coffee, so I put a written description in. You have the option to upload an image. And then in the next section, you'll have your key driver questions. The first, which is mandatory, is your customer satisfaction question, and that just gauges how satisfied customers are with your product or service. You can choose between a Likert and a scale, and both are customizable. So for the Likert, you have several different scale options you can choose from. And you can also customize the individual options. For scale, you would just put in a minimum and maximum value and make sure that your labels correspond with these values. You can also edit the question. The second question is an optional churn question. If you don't want to include this question, just click here on this toggle. I'll go ahead and include it. And this just asks how likely you are to buy another product the next time you make a purchase. Just like the last question, you can choose between a Likert or a scale, and both of these options are fully customizable. Finally, I have my key driver questions. The scale for the drivers is at the top, and just like the previous two questions, you have Likert or scale, which you can customize. And then as you scroll down, you'll see the options for the drivers that you actually want to test. And these are the different attributes of your business that you want to gauge. So for example, if I click on individual questions, you'll see a list of questions here. And I'm looking to test this product's flavor, caffeine content, price, packaging, size, and commitment to sustainability. My questions are on the left, and the drivers are listed on the right. And these will become labels in a chart that I'll get once I launch my test and get the results. If I don't want to ask individual questions, I click on Grid Question, and this will ask one single question: what do you think about these drivers? And all the drivers that you listed are going to be in a grid. If I want to add a driver, the nice thing is I can add it here. It'll appear in my Grid Question section, and it'll also automatically populate in my individual questions section, and vice versa. To preview my test, I click on the Preview button. Here I just have a welcome message that explains the test, my product description and an image of my product, my customer satisfaction question, my optional churn question, and then questions for my drivers. Because I chose individual questions, each of these questions is displayed individually on a single page. If I chose grid, all of the questions would appear in grid format. Now, let's take a look at what it looks like when I actually get the results for my project. Now, let's say I've run my test and I want to see the results. I click on my project. This will take me to a section called Analyze and a subsection called Overview. The overview just gives me some information about my test, such as how many responses I had, the number of questions in the test, and where in the world my respondents came from. If I want to see my full results, I click on Question Analysis. And my first result will always be my key driver chart. This chart has 4 different quadrants, and each corresponds with a different strength or weakness level. So on the upper right-hand side in green, I have my key strengths. On the upper left-hand side, I have my key weaknesses in red. On the lower left-hand side, I have less important weaknesses in purple. And in yellow, on the lower right-hand side, I have less important strengths. You'll see that the drivers that I tested are on this chart, the things like caffeine content, commitment to sustainability, flavor, packaging, price, and size. Sometimes these drivers can be close in value, And if that's the case, you can zoom in on the chart by clicking on your mouse. So here, for example, I can zoom in on my less important strengths and see caffeine content, size, and packaging in this quadrant. If I want to reset my chart, I can just hit Reset Zoom. And here I can also see that flavor is a key strength and a key weakness is price. I can remove drivers from the chart by clicking next to the driver's name in this section here and hitting the Apply button. To get them back, I can just deselect them and hit Apply again. Another easy way to see what drivers are in what quadrant is to look at this chart below. Here, I can see I need to improve my price because it's more important in driving customer satisfaction, but it's not scoring well. I can leverage a strength like flavor, which is more important in driving customer satisfaction, but is also high scoring. And then I can maintain things like caffeine content, commitment to sustainability, packaging, and size, because these are less important in driving customer satisfaction, but they're scoring well. Now you'll notice I don't have anything in the purple quadrant. And if I did, these are things that I would want to monitor. They're things that are less important to customers in terms of the satisfaction, but I'm also not scoring well. So I don't want to ignore them entirely, but I don't want to place as much emphasis on them as I would something that's important to my customers, like price. If you click here, you'll see there's a chart that corresponds with the graph that you just saw. You'll see the names of your drivers listed here in this column, the relative importance of each driver, and the average performance score. Then, if you look below, any other questions you included should be here. In this test, I did include my churn question, and it's here. And then I also included some demographic questions that I can use if I want to filter on the information. So for example, if I wanted to know what was important or less important to men, women, or non-binary respondents, I could filter on that, provided that it was in my test. As you can see, creating a key driver analysis test in CiteX is easy. If you have any questions, feel free to get in touch with the team. Thank you.